Oliver's Castle, Wiltshire, 1989.
There's a couple of lights down there somewhere.
This controversial film appears to show strange objects hovering above a cornfield. Below, complex circle formations appear.
In May 2025, a drone flying over a quiet field in Wiltshire captured something no one had ever seen before. An intricate crop circle forming in under 12 seconds, with no humans, no machines, and no explanation.
In 2020, a batch of declassified Ministry of Defense files revealed something remarkable.
What followed wasn't just a viral video, it triggered a global scientific investigation. Thermal spikes, electromagnetic pulses, vanishing insects, and mathematical patterns no one expected. Could this finally be the breakthrough researchers had been waiting for? What really happened that night? For decades, crop circles have stirred curiosity, skepticism, and plenty of debate. Found mostly in rural areas, especially in the UK, they've been explained as hoaxes, misunderstood weather events, or something more complex. But until recently, there was one thing missing. No one had ever caught one forming on camera. Despite all the theories, motion sensors, drones, and sleepless nights in empty fields, not a single clear recording existed of a crop circle actually being created in real time. That changed in May 2025. In a quiet field near Wiltshire, England, an area long known for strange formations in crops, researchers captured something they had been chasing for years. A drone, equipped with multiple sensors, happened to be filming when a highly intricate crop circle appeared. Not over hours, not even minutes, but in just under 12 seconds. The formation that appeared wasn't random. It was a complex Celtic knot design, over 50 feet wide, and remarkably symmetrical. What stood out even more was how it happened. The drone footage clearly shows no people or vehicles in or near the field, no machinery, no footprints, no entry tracks in the surrounding perimeter. There was no obvious source of interference, just an empty field. Then, within seconds, a geometric formation where none existed before. This is significant for one main reason. It's the first time the actual creation of a crop circle has been recorded from start to finish. In all the years that researchers, scientists, and enthusiasts have been monitoring these events, every formation had always been discovered after the fact. They'd find the pattern, examine the plants, analyze the soil, take atmospheric readings,
where charged
and
columns of
propose theories.
ionized air could create such
But the moment of
patterns.
creation itself was never observed. Until now. According to scientists reviewing the footage, this event is not just another crop circle. It's something that changes the playing field. One researcher described it as an event that rewrites how we understand atmospheric physics. While that's a bold claim, the footage does raise some serious questions, especially when you look at what else was captured. Moments before the formation appeared, the drone's thermal imaging picked up a faint, luminous glow hovering over the area. It wasn't visible in regular light, but clearly appeared in the infrared spectrum. This glow matches a prediction made years earlier by physicist Terence Mean, who has studied atmospheric plasma phenomena for decades. His theory suggests that charged columns of ionized air, often referred to as plasma vortices, could produce crop circle patterns under the right conditions. The presence of this soft corona glow, seen just before the crop flattened, seems to support that idea. But that wasn't the only anomaly. The drone's thermal sensors also detected a very brief and focused burst of heat in the area right at the moment the crop started to move. This temperature spike lasted less than a second, followed by a sudden cooling. The pattern wasn't random. It was localized to the area of the formation and did not spread outward. It was as if something delivered a sharp pulse of energy, interacted with the crop, and then disappeared. Researchers on the ground later confirmed what the drone had seen. There were no broken plants, no crushed stems. The crop stalks had been bent in a smooth, uniform pattern, flattened in the same direction but without damage. The plants were still alive, and none showed signs of being cut or broken by mechanical force. This is a key detail because mechanical hoaxes typically leave evidence: stems that snap, soil that's compacted, or the clear imprint of boards and ropes. None of those things were found here. Even more unusual were the temperature readings taken in the hours after the event. Inside the circle, the air temperature dropped by nearly 2 degrees Celsius compared to the rest of the field. This difference held for several hours before returning to normal. That kind of temperature drop in an open field, without shade or a change in wind direction, is difficult to explain using standard thermodynamics. So what does this all mean? According to multiple physicists and researchers involved in the analysis, it points to a real, measurable event, one that involved energy transfer, electromagnetic behavior, and an unexplained form of interaction with the crop. Importantly, no one is rushing to declare a supernatural explanation. The current focus is on what can be measured, tested, and replicated. And while there are many theories on the table, the footage finally offers something previous cases lacked: direct observational data. Terence Mean, who has been a central figure in crop circle research, sees this as a potential breakthrough. For years, his plasma vortex theory was treated as speculative, partly because no one had ever seen one in action, but the appearance of a glowing corona, the heat burst, and the absence of any human interference all mirror the exact sequence he's described in his published models. In his words, "What we're seeing in this footage matches what we've always predicted would happen if the conditions were right and we had the right tools in place to capture it." It's also worth noting that this event happened in a location that's historically significant when it comes to crop circles. Wiltshire is home to hundreds of documented formations going back over 40 years. Many of these have appeared near ancient sites like Stonehenge and Avebury, leading some to speculate about energy lines or magnetic anomalies in the region. Whether those factors played a role here is still under investigation. One of the most challenging aspects of crop circle research has always been separating fact from fiction. In the past, hoaxes have made the job more difficult, especially when some formations were admittedly created by artists or pranksters. But as the patterns became more complex and the physical evidence harder to fake, more scientists began paying attention. Still, without direct footage, most findings remained open to interpretation. Now, with this new recording, the discussion is changing. We're no longer looking only at aftermaths, we're watching something happen in real time, with high-resolution imaging, thermal tracking, and no signs of human involvement. The footage is currently being analyzed by independent teams in the UK, Europe, and the US. Their job is to verify its authenticity, rule out tampering, and assess the data it provides. Early signs suggest that the recording is genuine and unaltered. If those findings hold, the implications are significant. This could mark the first time a crop circle formation has been studied as it happened, not just as a mystery found after the fact. More importantly, it opens the door to further research. The team that captured this footage had been running a long-term monitoring project using drones with AI-enhanced surveillance systems. They were testing prediction models based on environmental conditions, such as shifts in magnetic fields and unusual temperature readings. That system, according to people familiar with the project, had flagged the location as active in the days leading up to the formation. If that predictive approach turns out to be reliable, we may soon be able to anticipate these events, not just react to them. But within hours, they had begun gathering samples of soil, air, and plant matter from inside the formation and from unaffected areas nearby to serve as controls. The difference between the two sets of samples turned out to be more than just visual. While the flattened crops inside the circle appeared healthy and undamaged at first glance, Laboratory analysis showed they had undergone subtle but measurable changes. Botanists examining the plants noted that the stalks inside the circle had been bent near their nodes, the knuckle-like joints in a plant's stem, but were not broken. This bending occurred without tearing the outer skin of the stalks, which is not something easily done with physical force. In fact, the plants showed signs of rapid, uniform heating. This caused the water inside the stalks to expand, softening the node area just long enough to allow the stalk to bend before cooling quickly and setting in place. This kind of cellular effect was first documented by biophysicist William Levengood in the 1990s. His work, part of the BLT research project, found that crop circle plants often exhibited what's known as node elongation and expulsion cavities, small, blown-out holes in the stems. These features are consistent with exposure to short bursts of microwave energy. In this 2025 case, similar damage was observed in the lab. The plants had not been crushed mechanically, but had instead been shaped by what appeared to be an external energy source, acting with precision and without destroying the plant tissue. Another unexpected finding came from the soil samples. Under UV light, researchers noticed that microbes collected from within the crop circle exhibited temporary bioluminescence, essentially glowing when exposed to ultraviolet light. This glow was not present in the microbes collected from just outside the formation. Although the phenomenon was short-lived, it suggested that the microbial environment inside the formation had been exposed to an unknown energy that temporarily altered its biological activity. This is not a normal reaction for most soil microbes and indicated a highly localized effect that occurred only within the boundary of the crop circle. Then came perhaps the most puzzling observation of all: the complete absence of insect life. For 72 hours after the formation appeared, researchers found no signs of insect activity within the 50-foot diameter of the crop circle, no ants, beetles, or flying insects, despite active populations just a few meters away. It was as if the environment had been temporarily sterilized. Entomologists consulted on the case noted that such a sudden disappearance of insect life in such a sharply defined boundary was highly unusual. Insects typically respond gradually to environmental shifts, not instantly, and not in such a uniform pattern. These biological and environmental anomalies raised serious questions. Was there a mechanism at play that could produce such highly targeted effects, acting only on the crops, the microbes, and even the insects within a specific radius? And if so, what kind of force or field could be responsible for that? To add to the mystery, atmospheric data gathered at the time of the formation revealed a peculiar coincidence. At precisely 4:17 a.m., the same moment the pattern appeared, a research station in Germany recorded a brief but measurable anomaly in the Earth's Schumann resonance. This natural resonance, typically centered around 7.83 Hz, is thought to be the background electromagnetic vibration of the Earth. While it's a subtle signal, scientists have been monitoring it for decades, as it often correlates with major atmospheric or electromagnetic events. The German station's sensors recorded a spike in the resonance, one that aligned perfectly in time with the Wiltshire formation. While this could be a coincidence, some researchers pointed out that this kind of synchronization, across such a distance, hints at a shared or connected phenomenon. Yoshihiko Otsuki, a physicist known for his laboratory work involving microwave plasmoids, suggested that such a spike could represent the global response to a localized energy event, similar to how a strong lightning strike might produce a ripple in the Earth's magnetic field. Further analysis came from satellite data. 3 hours before the formation appeared, the Sentinel-2 satellite passed over the same region. This European Space Agency satellite, which captures infrared data for environmental monitoring, recorded a concentrated heat signature hovering directly above what would later become the center of the crop circle. The heat anomaly wasn't spread out like a weather front or storm cloud. It was focused and isolated, a perfect match to the eventual pattern location. This wasn't the only space-based anomaly. When researchers accessed archived radar data from NOAA and other international agencies, they found something even more striking. About 90 minutes before the formation occurred, weather radar captured a vertical, cylindrical anomaly descending over the same coordinates. The object was faint, almost invisible in the standard data, but became clear when filtering techniques were applied. It showed up for just 9 seconds and then vanished. Its vertical orientation, sharp edges, and brief duration didn't match any known weather pattern. A consulting meteorologist involved in the investigation admitted that it was unlike anything they had seen before. Most radar anomalies are linked to weather systems, clouds, storms, or temperature fronts, but this was different. It had structure. It had a defined shape, and it appeared just before the formation was created. These combined findings, thermal, biological, electromagnetic, and atmospheric, paint a picture of a highly unusual event. One that cannot be easily explained by conventional weather, pranksters, or basic agricultural phenomena. And while no one is leaping to paranormal conclusions, the scientific community is beginning to acknowledge that something outside of normal parameters may be at play. To try and make sense of it all, a group of scientists fed the recorded crop circle geometry into a machine learning system. This AI was trained to find visual and mathematical patterns across various scientific datasets, including radio astronomy signals. What it found was completely unexpected. The crop circle's layout had a near-perfect match with a signal signature from a fast radio burst, an intense burst of radio energy from deep space, recorded in 2023. Fast radio bursts, or FRBs, are one of astronomy's biggest mysteries. They're incredibly short-lived, lasting just milliseconds, but release as much energy as the sun does in days. Their source remains unknown. The fact that the pattern of a ground-based crop formation matched the waveform geometry of one of these bursts has raised serious questions. Was it just a coincidence? Or does it suggest a shared underlying structure in energy transmissions, regardless of origin? Sanir Zana, incredulous? True! The wrist incidents coincide. Last month, the collimator. Further geometric analysis revealed even more mathematical precision. The 2025 formation wasn't just visually striking, it was mathematically elegant. It contained embedded golden ratio spirals and nodal points arranged in sequences of prime numbers. These are not things that typically show up in random or natural patterns without an underlying organizing force. To achieve such precision in under 12 seconds would require an application of force that is either technologically advanced or guided by principles not yet fully understood in physics. It's these layers of evidence that continue to push this event into serious scientific territory. This isn't just a mystery on a farm in Wiltshire. It's a case study with global implications. Biological anomalies, electromagnetic signatures, thermal events, mathematical structures, all recorded in a tightly controlled environment with timestamps, video, and physical samples. While more research is needed, what's becoming clear is that the 2025 formation was not an isolated curiosity. It appears to be part of a broader, measurable, and possibly repeatable phenomenon. And as more institutions get involved in the analysis, the hope is that science can move closer to understanding not just how these formations occur, but why they happen in the way they do. The first discovery came when a group of data scientists ran the design through a pattern recognition algorithm. This wasn't basic shape comparison. The software was developed for use in radio astronomy, where researchers search for repeating signals and patterns in fast radio bursts, or FRBs. These short, intense signals come from deep space and are known for their sudden appearance and extremely regular mathematical structures. To everyone's surprise, the system flagged a close match between the geometry of the 2025 formation and the frequency layout of one such burst, recorded in 2023. The FRB in question had been documented by an international radio telescope array and remains unexplained. The similarities were not visual, but mathematical. The nodal spacing, spiral curve, and symmetry of the crop circle closely followed the harmonic ratios found in the radio burst's signal profile. This kind of correlation raises big questions. Is it just coincidence that a pattern in a field mirrors the mathematical behavior of a cosmic signal? Or does it suggest there may be shared principles guiding energy patterns, whether on Earth or in deep space? Scientists involved in the review stressed caution. No one is saying these crop formations are communications from space, but the idea that similar geometric and frequency principles could appear in different contexts, both terrestrial and cosmic, is worth exploring. That's not where the pattern analysis ended. Geometric studies of the 2025 formation revealed even more striking details. The layout followed classic golden ratio spirals, curves based on the irrational number approximately equal to 1.618. This ratio appears throughout nature, from the shape of galaxies to the spirals in sunflowers and seashells. It is often associated with efficient growth and structural balance. In addition to the golden ratio, the formation contained nodal points, arranged using prime number sequences. These numbers, only divisible by 1, and themselves are considered the building blocks of number theory and often show up in cryptographic and signal-based systems. The presence of such mathematically pure structures in the design added another layer of intrigue. To build something like this deliberately, on the ground, would take hours of planning, surveying, and careful execution, especially at that scale. Yet this one appeared in under 12 seconds, with no visible sign of construction or human activity. This precision reignited interest in long-standing theories that had tried to explain how crop circles might form naturally under certain rare conditions. One of the more prominent theories involves atmospheric plasma vortices, columns of ionized air that behaved like spinning tubes of charged particles. Terence Mean, a physicist who has studied these phenomena for over 30 years, was one of the first to suggest that such plasma could, under specific conditions, generate crop circle-like patterns. Mean had long proposed that if you had a rotating plasma vortex, it could emit electromagnetic radiation in geometric patterns, much like the concentric rings and spirals seen in many crop formations. He also predicted that such events would include a faint luminous corona, something exactly like the glow seen in the 2025 drone footage. When Mean reviewed the new evidence, he said it was the first time field data had fully matched the model he had been describing in academic papers since the early 2000s. Supporting this theory was another strand of experimental science, this time from Japan. Physicist Yoshiko Otsuki had been working with microwave plasmoids in a lab, small glowing spheres of plasma energy generated using focused microwave bursts. When released in controlled environments, these plasmoids created concentric ring patterns in nearby materials, including fields of grass and even thin layers of metallic dust. The patterns were not burned in or mechanically pressed down. They were shaped using electromagnetic pressure. The rings closely resembled known crop circle shapes. In his research, Otsuki noted that these plasmoids emitted light, hovered briefly, and then descended to imprint geometric patterns through what he called electromagnetic shaping. The similarity to what happened in Wiltshire caught the attention of researchers worldwide. It was no longer just a theory. Now there was lab-based support for the idea that plasma energy could influence plant material without destroying it. But it wasn't just physics that added context to the 2025 event. A recently declassified document from the UK Ministry of Defence offered historical parallels that hadn't been noticed before. The report, from 1989, described a pre-dawn incident in Oxfordshire where military observers witnessed a low, glowing fog descend over a field. After it lifted, a circular pattern was discovered in the crops. The description included specific phrases like soft, radiant haze and rapid depression of plant material. Details eerily similar to what was captured in 2025. Hand-drawn sketches from that report showed the sequence of the formation appearing, and when compared to still frames from the 2025 drone video, the visual resemblance was remarkable. Yet at the time, the 1989 event was filed under unresolved meteorological anomaly and buried in an archive for over 3 decades. Only now, with new footage in hand, does it seem like it may have documented the same type of phenomenon years earlier. Historians, specializing in declassified government records, pointed out that these events were often noted but not followed up on, not because of conspiracies, but because the science to analyze them didn't exist at the time. Without thermal imaging, high-resolution drones, or predictive AI, most of these incidents remained anecdotal or were chalked up to strange weather. This connection between past and present events has helped to reframe how scientists are approaching the phenomenon. The question has shifted from, is this real, to what's the mechanism behind it? And while not all experts agree on the answers, there is increasing consensus that what we're dealing with may be a genuine atmospheric phenomenon involving electromagnetic or plasma processes. Adding to this was another significant development. A team from Cambridge University had been working on a machine learning project for several years, training an AI system to look for environmental patterns that preceded crop circle events. They used a wide range of data: solar activity, local geomagnetic fields, jet stream behavior, and even soil magnetism. According to the team, the algorithm flagged the Wiltshire location as a high-probability site just 72 hours before the event. Their model had never been used in real-time forecasting before. It was a test. But when the formation occurred within 10 miles of the predicted zone, the research team knew they had stumbled on something important. It suggested that crop circle formations might not be entirely random. If specific environmental conditions consistently precede their appearance, then these events might be measurable and perhaps even repeatable. The implications of this are significant. If crop circles are not messages or pranks, but measurable expressions of natural forces, like energy discharges or interactions between Earth's electromagnetic field and atmospheric plasma, then they can be studied just like any other geophysical phenomenon. They stop being unexplained mysteries and start becoming opportunities for new scientific discovery. As one researcher put it, perhaps crop circles aren't messages at all. Perhaps they're measurements. Recordings of energy flows, atmospheric changes, or magnetic field interactions that we're only beginning to understand. In this view, the formations aren't trying to tell us something. They're revealing something about the environment we live in, something we haven't learned how to read properly yet. With the 2025 event, all these theories are no longer floating in a vacuum. They have a point of reference, a real event with video, thermal imaging, physical samples, and a timestamp. Scientists can now revisit decades of ideas and test them against the most detailed data set ever collected on a crop circle. The footage and field data have triggered a global response, not just from the media, but from scientists across various disciplines. Physicists, atmospheric researchers, biologists, signal processing experts, and even AI specialists are now reviewing the evidence and submitting their own analyses. What's interesting is that most of these responses share a common theme. This event, regardless of its ultimate explanation, represents a serious scientific anomaly that demands proper investigation. One of the most immediate responses came from the University of Cambridge's research group that had successfully predicted the formation. Their algorithm, built on years of environmental data, including jet stream behavior and geomagnetic fluctuations, had pointed to Wiltshire as a high-risk area for activity. When the crop circle appeared almost exactly where and when the model had forecasted, the team realized they might be on the verge of understanding something much deeper. Their interpretation wasn't that crop circles are deliberate signals or messages, but rather the physical outcome of specific environmental conditions. If the right mix of factors, such as charged atmospheric layers, solar radiation intensity, magnetic field anomalies, and perhaps even subsurface conductivity lines up in the right place at the right time, then a formation may appear. In this view, the crop circle is less of a mystery and more of a footprint, a signature left behind by a burst of energy that happens to take geometric form. Other researchers agree with this direction. One physicist put it this way: if the conditions that lead to crop circle formations can be forecasted, then the formations are not random. That makes them part of a measurable natural system. It may be rare and still poorly understood, but it's not necessarily unexplainable. At the same time, the scientific community remains cautious. While the footage and data are compelling, researchers are well aware of the dangers of confirmation bias and premature conclusions. This is one reason why many of the most experienced scientists are taking a slow and methodical approach to analyzing the event. The priority is to build a strong foundation of evidence before offering definitive explanations. This approach stands in contrast to the public reaction, which has understandably included a wave of speculation. Social media and online forums quickly filled with theories, ranging from secret military experiments to extraterrestrial intervention. But the researchers involved in the study caution against jumping to these kinds of conclusions. They say it's not helpful and only distracts from what might actually be one of the most important natural discoveries in recent decades. As more data continues to be collected, new layers of complexity are emerging. One of the more surprising developments came from a group of independent scientists who were given access to the full spectral data captured during the formation event. Their analysis revealed something unexpected. The electromagnetic signature, recorded during the 12-second formation process, wasn't random. It contained distinct frequency bands that repeated at precise intervals. This type of structured signal, known in signal processing as a Fourier pattern, usually points to some form of artificial modulation or an extremely regular natural process. In this case, the electromagnetic waves were not just fluctuating, they were pulsing in a predictable rhythm. This kind of coherence is rare in natural atmospheric events, which usually produce more chaotic broadband noise. Renowned physicist Brian Cox, after reviewing the spectral breakdown, noted that the signal's structure resembled a controlled pulse pattern. According to him, signals with this level of regularity are often associated with rotating mechanisms or gating systems, systems that regulate when and how energy is released. While he stopped short of drawing firm conclusions, he did point out that this kind of order is rarely seen in terrestrial natural phenomena unless under highly unusual circumstances. That view was echoed by radio astronomers who were brought in to compare the event data to known cosmic signals. Interestingly, some of the harmonic relationships found in the 2025 signal mirrored patterns seen in certain fast radio bursts. These intense energy pulses, originating from deep space, often display similar rhythmic and structured characteristics. The fact that something even remotely comparable occurred during a ground-based event only deepens the mystery. One of the most compelling aspects of the entire event is how all the different pieces seem to fit together. You have real-time visual footage showing a pattern forming with no visible human interference. You have thermal anomalies recorded before, during, and after the event. You have electromagnetic pulses measured at the exact time of the formation. You have plant and soil changes that align with previous studies on microwave-level heating. And now you have signal data showing a level of structure that points to a highly organized process. Put simply, it's no longer one mystery. It's a network of interlocking anomalies, each pointing in the same direction. Something very real happened in that field in Wiltshire, and it doesn't yet fit neatly into any known category of natural event. Official institutions, meanwhile, have responded with quiet acknowledgement but little detail. When asked about the infrared satellite readings that captured the thermal anomaly 3 hours before the formation appeared, a spokesperson from the UK Met Office confirmed the data existed, but declined to explain what it could mean. The response was carefully worded. The reading, they said, fell outside their mission scope. A similar silence came from NASA, whose Hyperion hyperspectral satellite had also passed over the region during the same time window. When researchers filed a Freedom of Information request for the raw data, the files they received were incomplete, with significant gaps in the exact time frame of the event. No explanation was given. These limited responses aren't necessarily evidence of a cover-up. Many researchers believe that the reason for the silence is far simpler. There simply isn't an explanation yet. When data doesn't match any known model, official agencies are reluctant to comment until they've had time to investigate thoroughly. In other words, it's not suppression, it's caution. Richard Taylor, a physicist who has studied crop circles extensively, reinforced this idea. He noted that the absence of official statements often has more to do with the nature of science itself than with secrecy. Science doesn't work on speculation. It works on data. And when something new challenges the boundaries of known physics, the first step is to observe, measure, and verify. Only then can conclusions be drawn. In the meantime, independent teams around the world are continuing their work. Advanced drones, AI-powered sensors, and atmospheric monitoring systems are now being deployed to areas with historical patterns of activity. The goal is to catch another formation, this time with even more data. Higher frame rates, expanded spectral coverage, better thermal imaging, and real-time electromagnetic tracking. If another event can be captured under these conditions, it could provide the missing pieces needed to fully explain the mechanism. Some scientists believe we are on the edge of discovering a previously undocumented type of energy discharge, a kind of atmospheric plasma event that behaves according to electromagnetic rules we don't fully understand yet. Others think we may be seeing the physical imprint of Earth's own geomagnetic processes in action. And a few remain open to more speculative possibilities, provided the evidence continues to point in that direction. What's important is that the research is now grounded in data. The era of guessing is giving way to an era of analysis. The tools now exist to study these events in real time, to compare them to other known physical phenomena, and to build models that can be tested and refined. The 2025 Wiltshire event didn't solve the mystery, it redefined it. As more formations are recorded and more data is shared between disciplines, a clearer picture will begin to form. Whether these events turn out to be natural, artificial, or a blend of processes we don't yet fully understand, they are no longer just a curiosity. They're a legitimate area of scientific inquiry, backed by evidence, informed by history, and driven by discovery. The formation in Wiltshire may have lasted only seconds, but its impact on the scientific world is still unfolding. It has turned a decades-old puzzle into a modern challenge, one that now invites experts from around the globe to look more closely, ask better questions, and follow the data, wherever it may lead.